Hey, I'm Super Matt.
Hey, I'm Super Blake.
Hey guys, I just want to introduce y'all to Blake Williams. He is our Super Inspector Extraordinaire and owner of Super Inspector. And today we're going to talk about deficiencies in air conditioning and heating systems that we see in our inspections. So what are the most common things that you see when you go into a house, not a new one obviously, but a pre-owned home? And what do you see on the air conditioning side? Inside, like up in the attic at the furnace unit and the blower unit, and then what you see outside at the condensing unit.
So common deficiencies, so starting outside of the condensing unit, we might see just minor things like the refrigerant pipe that comes out of the wall and goes to the condensing unit. Mm-hmm. One of those two pipes should be insulated. And
that's right.
Much of the time that insulation is either missing or deteriorated. Mm-hmm. We'll look at the coil. A lot of times it's dirty, it needs to be cleaned. And if the condensing unit is not level, we always recommend that it be leveled. It's going to perform better when it's level because there's oil in the compressor motor.
There sure is.
So we want that to be level so it's not pooling to one side of the motor.
Okay.
And also, we look up on the roof. So if there's not gutters on the house, there needs to be a diverter up there to divert the roof runoff away from the condenser. We don't want all the water coming off the roof down to the condensing unit.
Yeah, because we've heard people talk before about the water running off of the roof, no gutter, no diverter, and it runs right down on top of the fan in there, and it causes rust. Also, too, is the granules that are on top of the roof, asphalt shingles, all start to come down and start to collect at the bottom.
Right.
And when the fan comes on, it starts throwing stuff around, right?
Yep.
Debris.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Then when we go inside, probably the most common thing we see is rust in the emergency condensation drain pan if the attic is in the if the unit is in the attic.
Right.
So that's the secondary pan. So if the primary pan, which you don't see, it's inside the cabinet, gets overflows or the drain is clogged and it diverts into the emergency pan, then water sits in there in the pan, rusts.
It sure
does. If it sits in there too long, then that water ends up on the ceiling because it rusts through.
Yeah.
And so when we go in, it's very common to see rust in the pan, and we don't know if that's a current problem unless we actually see water there,
right,
or if it's from a previous issue. Either way, the rust compromises the integrity of the pan.
It does.
So if it was from a previous issue, if new water starts to go in there when things change, then it's going to rust through very rapidly. So that pan really should be changed out.
And we see a lot of rusted pans.
Yes.
A lot.
Yes. It's very common, very
And
common.
it doesn't mean the whole pan's rusted. I mean, we have seen them where the whole thing is rusted.
Yeah.
It's all copper color, brown color.
Yeah.
But then we see a lot where they're right on the edge.
Yeah.
It's right where it's dripping in, and it just pools in that corner.
Right.
And that water stays there forever until it dries up, and then it causes the rust.
Right. And a lot of that can just be condensation dripping off the refrigerant pipe into the pan under normal operation.
Yeah.
So that pipe needs to be insulated to help prevent that.
And let's talk about the secondary pipe going outside. And if we see water dripping from that as the unit's running, it's supposed to go that way, and that's your secondary, which you want your secondary runoff because you don't want it going back in the house somewhere.
Right.
But that's not common. That's not where it's
not normal.
It's not normal, right? It's common for it to do it if it's secondary, but it's not normal. You know that there's an issue.
Right. So those drains, the secondary drains, are located on the outside of the house over a door or window.
Yeah.
And they're there for a reason so that you'll see the drainage and know that there's a problem with the primary drain.
Because I've heard people say, why would they put that pipe there?
Right.
So,
and then they reroute it somewhere else.
Yeah, they put it somewhere else and then they never see it again.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's very interesting.
And then, of course, we check temperature differentials to see that the temperature of the return air and the supply air, we like for the difference between those two to be 15 to 22 degrees.
Right.
If it's outside of that range, that indicates that the system's not cooling like it should.
And so do you use a pocket thermometer to go in there and also a thermal image camera?
We just use a thermal image
because
camera.
it's efficient enough
That's pretty
that,
accurate,
it'll pick all that stuff
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, it's
too,
pretty
right?
accurate, yeah.
And do you use that thermal imaging camera to look at like the fans or anything else electrical as they are running to see
Yeah,
if
we
they're
pretty much
putting off
scan everything with
too
that.
much
Yeah, so we
or
can
pulling
tell,
too much amperage?
right, we can see overheating conductors, we can see air leaking from air ducts in the attic, you know, if they're not sealed up good,
Sure.
things like that. So yeah, it's a great tool.
Okay. Well, we appreciate that information today. So just remember that maintaining your AC system twice a year is a lot more important than most people think about, because usually we don't even look at it or hardly even change air filters on a common basis, because we find a lot of dirty air filters, don't we?
Oh,
in
yeah.
inspections.
Dirty air filters, grime on the return air registers, things
Yeah.
like that.
So a little elbow grease and a little bit of cleaning, a little maintaining, and
Maintenance,
write
yeah.
that stuff down on the calendar to remind yourself that you need to change the filter and that you need somebody to come out and service and clean it. It's well worth it.
Yeah, so when we change our clocks for daylight savings time in
Yeah.
the spring and the fall,
Yeah.
that's a good reminder to change your smoke detector batteries and get your air conditioning equipment serviced.
Yeah. So, well, thank you, Blake. We
All right.
appreciate that. So if you have any questions, you can always reach us by this number here. Check us out on our Facebook page and like us. We appreciate that at Super Inspector. And then also our website has a lot of good information on it, and that is yoursuperinspector.com. We appreciate your time today. Thanks.
Thanks.